let's begin because there is only 10 minutes. There we go. So since ChatGPT, everybody been talking about ChatGPT and how it's going to impact the universities and education, and there've been a lot of people talking about how it could be used as a way of cheating. In other words, how people can use or students can use ChatGPT to write their essay, for instance. But there were some who were kind of more positive. They were like, we can personalize learning or democratize learning by using generative AI because it can, adapt to students' learnings and needs, and that would be great. But the question is, has anyone ever tried that? Like, we constantly saying this is great, but has anyone tried whether the personalized learning or personal tutor actually work? So given the answer is almost no, and I can argue about that later, but we decided to test it with the students. Well, how would you test it? If you go to the, for instance, ChatGPT platform, and you want tell students, go and prompt it, go and ask, draft me some questions about self-defense, let's say, and the question is, would it know all the relevant components of self-defense, or would it hallucinate and teach the students wrong stuff, or talk about rules in other jurisdictions instead of like our jurisdiction? And finally, does it know how to guide the students step by step, or it's gonna give the answer, just spit it out outright, so students don't actually learn the process of getting to correct answer? So we decided to use ChatGPT as a reasoning engine instead of knowledge database. So instead of going just ask questions, it knows, it has the knowledge. We decided to outline all the questions, all the answers, and the instructions on how to interact with the students. And the problem is, if you want to give that prompt with questions, answer, instructions to students to put it in ChatGPT, they see the answer. And what's the point of that? Because they know what's the correct answer. They just that bypass the whole process of learning. So we decided to create our own platform to be able to hide the prompt. And me and Associate Professor Imaging from UNSW, we started early 2022. Back then, we were dealing with GPT-3. It was way before ChatGPT being released, and AI was still hot and sexy back then. But yeah, not anymore, unfortunately. Anyway, so we wanted to create a chatbot and name it Smart Tests that could do these things. Can ask pre-drafted questions, so we are sure that it's gonna ask questions that are relevant to whatever is the topic, and give feedback to students based on the answers we provided, so there wouldn't be any hallucination, and the answers are reliable. And be conversational, like to help students learn instead of just give them an answer. If students get an answer wrong, then would help them understand the process of getting to correct answer, like what's this next step and what you've missed there. And a platform that the students cannot see the prompt itself, which is questions and the correct answers, and easy to set up with educators because nobody has time. So it took us a while to create this, and this is the platform. That is how it looks. It's called Safe to Fail AI. We created a specific page for our studies, Safe to Fail AI study UNSW. And students, when they go, they can see the participant information sheet for students, and they have to scroll down and click I consent, and then enter a password because we didn't want random people enter stuff. And then this is what they see. So in this picture, you don't see any prompt. There is no question answer. So technically, if you say hi, you would expect to see that, how can I help you? Because that's how ChatGPT would reply. But because the prompt is implemented, it would do exactly as we asked. It'd say, hey, I'm excited to talk to you about the sentencing principles and rules. Here is the first question. And like around 50% of offenders reoffend. Why is that? What elements of sentencing are relevant? So they don't see the prompt. They don't see questions, answers, and instructions. But if you enter the admin password on the left side, you can see the prompt and say, you're a criminal law tutor. Once the student says, hi, this is what I want you to do. So it meets, the criteria that we wanted for this study. So we designed this study last year, semester 2, 2023, for criminal law and procedure B. We ran it in 5 test cycles in 5 different weeks. And at least 2 classes in each test cycle were involved in this study. And the tutors were directed to ask the students to do this smart test activity with the questions, and then tutors reviewed the correct answer just in case if a smart test hallucinated, they're not learning incorrect things. So we're just making sure they're getting the right answer. We had to write many different prompts, more than 20 times in each test cycle, to maximize the efficiency and the output. And students' interactions were recorded on the Google Docs, so we could analyze it afterwards. And in test cycles 1 to 3, there were short problem questions and like scenarios, one paragraph, like a criminal law scenario, like somebody assault another person. We instructed smart tests to follow ILAC system, or some call it MIRAC, and to not easily give up the answer, to encourage the students to think for themselves, and lots of other things. And this is like an example prompt from test cycle number 2. You can see this is one part of it. This is the continue of the same prompt, and that goes and goes and goes. So this is a lengthy prompt. It's like 500-600 words prompt, but in details it tells the AI what it's supposed to do and what are the things that should be addressed. And anyway, the outcome of the first 3 cycles was that it handled many questions and answers perfectly, but it skipped some steps of the correct answer. For instance, if a student didn't address a law and it didn't ask like, oh, you didn't address the relevant laws, and give up the answer or being leading a lot. So I will show you an example of that. And there were other issues. Sometimes the students cited judgments we didn't include in the correct answer, but they were correct. So that's one of the dilemmas, that it's not about the accuracy, it's about how we draft the questions and whether we can draft the questions in a way that meet all the different circumstances. And there are sometimes multiple ways to get to correct answer. There are various arguments, and we didn't consider some of those arguments, even though we spent a lot of time in it. So these are some of the problems. And in general, it didn't follow the instructions as we expected it to do. Example of giving up the answer: a student says something, it doesn't matter what they say, the AI is answering, say, yeah, you did well. But what is important here, at the bottom it says, now can you think about the second AR element? Does the property belong to another? This "does the property belong to another" is the second AR element. So it's giving one part of the answer and asking the next question now. So that problem was very consistent, and it was very difficult to address. In conclusion, for the first 3 cycles, prompts are too long and too complicated for the current AI models to follow them. You might say that they forget the instructions because it's super long. So for cycles 4 and 5, we focus on short answer questions, like 4 or 5 short answer questions. And we introduce content because many students were asking extra questions or follow-up questions about the topic from a smart test that it couldn't answer. So we provide some further information that smart tests could use the content to answer students' questions with reliable information. We tested personalized learning. If a student provides incorrect answer, ask another question from that topic. And I will show you again another example of that. And the results was that it was better than the first 3 test cycles, but still not perfect. It was still leading sometimes, or it was sometimes providing very questionable responses to the student's inquiry. Anyway, the famous personalized learning everybody talks about. Here is an example. Imagine the correct answer is retribution. There's a question that one word is the answer, right? So if a student says retribution, as it says here, it says, yeah, well done, that's correct. And then the question it's asking is about maximum guilty plea, right? Now, if the student answers incorrectly, it says deterrence. It says, yeah, this is wrong. And then what it does is it goes on and say, yeah, since we stumbled a little bit here, let's try another question. And another question is again about like retribution. What's the notion of eye for eye? So students would practice that topic that they didn't know the answer more, and making sure they learn all the relevant topics. Now, a question that everybody would have is that, are the future models better? And we tested 7 examples where smart tests failed with the newer AI models. So the AI model that we use goes back to 2023, 13th of June. It was, the latest model back then. The 2 AI models we use, one is from August. It's GPT-4o, which is pretty recent one. And the other one is GPT-4 Turbo, goes to April. So both of them are around 1 year, ahead of the model that we use, and 4 months difference between them. And we created a baseline scoring for this model, for those examples, and we says how much this model and this model are better than the base model when answering those problematic questions. In the first example, you can see that the latest model did just a little bit better, but the older model that goes back to April did way better, way better than both models. In example 2, kind of similar situation. The latest model did a little bit better, and the older model did just a little bit better than the other one. The surprising part was example number 3, that the latest model didn't make any improvements, while again the April model did a little bit better. And number 4, both models did worse than the model that is from a year ago. So yeah, and again, similar things here. So there are occasionally no improvements. And here, the huge difference that the latest model did way better than this April model, the model that was released 4 months earlier. Conclusion is that future models are not necessarily better. They make some aspects of them better, not necessarily all aspects of them. Different reasoning, or I don't know, knowledge, all those kind of things may improve disproportionately. So saying that future models will address our problem wouldn't fix the problem. We need other things to do. Anyway, we need other policies. That's what I mean. Implications, future directions. I'm going to just talk about 2 of them. One is the problem of alignment. Alignment in this context means that the generative AI models output is consistent with the intention of the user. So the problem is, in many cases, the Gen AI model or smart test wasn't following the instructions that we provided. So that's one of the problems that we have to think about, like how we want to address that. I'm going to just skip this because I don't have much time. The other is where we want to draw the line. How good is good enough? Because we humans are not perfect, and we have this bias that is illusory superiority. We think we are better than models, but when it comes to its assessments and marking them, you're not 100%. So where we want to draw the line and how good the models should be for us to say, yeah, they're perfect. Unfortunately, models do not need to be perfect to be better than us. That's what I'm saying. I don't have much time. Just one last thing. We tried jailbreaking the model, which means this is the code we entered, and you don't need to read it, but it fools the model to answer any type of questions after it reads this like hack or code or whatever you want to call it. So once we enter that, then next what we did as a student, we asked, give me all the questions and answers. And Smart said sure, and outlined all the questions and answers that we pre-drafted. So we should be very careful where we want to use this kind of things, because jailbreaking is not limited to our model. It's not that our model is weak. It is a major problem in this area. Okay, my time is finished. I'm gonna skip the second things. And overall, the using generative AI for educational purposes is a bit too risky at the moment, and we need to talk about it way more. And yeah, this paper is ready. If you know a good journal that processes papers fast and they have online first, please do let me know. It's ready to be submitted. It was my pleasure. Thank you.